So let me tell you, throughout my 23 years of being a social work, during this month, a social work month, I want to talk about the most challenging or most rewarding job that I had, but it was still challenging. See, before I became a social worker, one of the things that I wanted to be a pediatric doctor. And so, even though I had the skills to be a social worker, I was still kind of almost, I don't want to say running away from it. I just didn't want to do it at that time. And while I was in school, college, I had some challenges in chemistry. And at that time, I decided, okay, I am going to go to lean into social work, change my major and go ahead do social work because that was a natural skill that I had. So let me go to social work. But I always still had a desire to work at a hospital or be a pediatric doctor. Well, many years later, I got an opportunity to work at one of the main hospitals here in Mississippi, well known, and it was an opportunity to work in pediatric social work, which was great. So I was so excited to get this job. Now, in my mind, many years ago, in my mind, I was thinking, okay, I'm gonna be super social worker. I'm going in. My job is I'm gonna help out, help the families out, help the kids out. That's what I was thinking in my mind. And so excited to get this job. And the floor that I was hired to work on, excited to be on that floor. Shortly after being on that floor, doing some training, got an opportunity to do some training or work in the PICU, Pediatric Intensive Care Unit. And not too long after, doing some training and working in that area a little bit, you rotate around. Still new, didn't know that that particular social worker planned on retiring. And they opened up, who want to go to the PICU? Well, guess who volunteered? Me. I know why everybody wasn't urgent to volunteer to go in the PICU. And so volunteered to work in the PICU, and I remember one of my first memories, a lot of memories. But let me give you a disclaimer. It might be a trauma moment for someone. But my first memories working in the PICU is when I came down to work, a volunteer learn, and I was with the social worker, and we stand in on doing, I think they called it a brain death test, might be some other terminology, and that was my first memory. Young. Yes, I had experienced death before, like in family member, but not so close like that as a child. And to stand there with the family as they perform a series of tests and not becoming my emotions and not like, oh my gosh, what have I got myself into, which I was thinking of. And how do I supposed to respond? How do I supposed to react? How do I supposed to respond? It was a lot of emotions going on in my head. So that'd be my first experience. And at that time, I had small kids, age, and it was challenging. It was very challenging. Working there those several years, I have an opportunity to help a lot of people, a lot of families. I have seen a lot of stuff, and yeah, I mentioned to you before, if you haven't seen my video, I've talked about one of my first social work jobs that I didn't want to work with was CPS. Well, working at the hospital, I got an opportunity to see the other side. When CPS involved child abuse and neglect, sexual abuse involved, and you get to see it on the angle on the medical side. And that was hard to see that, from that angle. And because as I was working at PICU as a social worker, I would attend rounds. I'm not for sure how they do it now, but I would attend rounds because I want to understand and learn what I'm involved in and the families I'm working with. And so I would attend rounds, stand there in rounds, and they go through the rounds, go to the meetings, go inside the family meetings. Many family meetings when I sat there with the families and hearing the news, what is good, it's many times not so good, or sitting there with the doctors, they talk about, hey, we want to help the child, we don't want to work too on them, and just helping them out. Also, the opportunities, getting equipment for people to discharge was really good. Seeing many opportunities where things completely turn around when things were bad and their life turned around. Sitting with a lot of people who have different beliefs and faiths that I believe in. But when death hit people and it hit their family, we all experience emotion from that. And so it became so, even though I enjoyed the job with the PICU, it became so draining or stressful. Not the job, because even though you work in your unit, part of the team, when they have a cold, guess what? I learned that the social worker go when they run and put cold all over the hospital. So, because many times you encounter their family. And so one of my roles was to help be support to the family when a cold, I think they call it code 13. And it might be changed now. And so I was involved in running too. You got the doctors, everybody doing that part and play. Chaplain and doctors and residents and pharmacy and everybody else, and also the social work. And many times I will be with the family. Many times family want to be present, and I was there, And I know maybe now times has changed how they do things with codes and social worker and rounds. But I do said it was rewarding because I always want to be a pediatric doctor, and to get an opportunity to work at this well-known hospital in the state I'm in, and to work with pediatric residents and doctors and attendings was an honor and for me, and to be able to help families. Because even though there was times that, many times, I must be honest, that there have kids that transition or pass away, there have been so many rewarding times that even after I left the hospital, I might come across the family and they'll come and say, you know what, you really helped me during that time. You really helped me during that time, one of the worst times of their life. You really helped me. Or can't remember what the meeting had, like after someone transitioned a kid, a year later they invite the families over for a special service at the hospital, and I had an opportunity to go, know about it, and I showed up. And one time I showed up and I had a parent to bring me a blanket. I still remember this to this day. They had a blanket and they told me, thank you so much. Now, mind you, well, I mean, honest, there's a lot of people that I've seen in a pediatric, a lot of families I came encounter. Like I said, many times things turn out very well, but there are many times that things did not turn out well. And so this parent walked up to me, and they had a blanket, and on this blanket they had the drawing, a design of their child, and they wanted to show me, and they said, I really appreciate you. You helped me get this blanket. When that time happened, I was able to wrap my child in this blanket, and so to help the memory, I did put the image, or someone calling out, hey, can you get me the heartbeat so I can get a tattoo of my child on me. That is one of the rewarding times, or you being there during a worst time, or being that person, just being a support to them and encouragement. Even for the ones who got out of the PICU and they were able to go to the floor, or life had changed around, the situation changed around, and they was able to come back to the unit and speak and let you know how they doing. Like I said, I gained so much working at this hospital. I told you earlier that I used to work for CPS, my first job, but working at this hospital, I said, if you work at this particular hospital, you can practically work anywhere, because even though my job was a PICU social worker, you have to know how to do a lot of stuff. And I got opportunities to work in other departments. When we were short staffed or rotating around, you had to cover different units, the NICU, the ER, or maybe have to sit in on a transplant information meeting, as they gather information with people trying to do transplant, or order equipment, or family meetings. And so, and just be able to be versatile to help out. And so, and knowing resources, very, very knowledgeable about how to get medical equipment, helping people be able to get the stuff that they can sustain so they can be able to discharge, or setting up, if you have to, setting up hospice care, setting up transportation. Now, other than dealing with a child passing away, mind you, I always wanted to work at a hospital. I wanted to work at a hospital because I wanted to be a pediatric. But when I got this job as a social worker, never, I don't know what was going on in my mind, but never in my mind did it cross me that kids would pass away. I don't know what I was thinking. So to encounter that and see it over and over, and just the trauma you go through with the families, as well as seeing those things, being there as they doing CPR time after time and calling the time. You just being present there. I never thought that I would be in that position, or be in a position where you're trying to help someone get the remains of their child, or it was at one time, I'm not trying to be down, but it was a challenging job, but it was still rewarding. That it was so bad that at one time, seeing so many kids pass away, that I actually had like materials that I need in my office to help out families and for those who decide to take their child with them. And so, but it was also very rewarding. It was very rewarding in seeing when people's lives get changed, kids' life change around, they new start, healing and restoration in their body. And just the people that I got a chance to work with, the doctors, the nursing, the other social workers. And as I was saying, is another thing, I got off topic, but another thing other than death that was very challenging and hard on the job, it was, to me, was doing transportation. And I did not know what I was involved in. And, when you have to help transport someone to another hospital, and maybe it's a hospital out of state. And at that time, the social worker, we were short staffed and stuff. And so you coordinate the transportation, whereas all the different parts of transportation, whether it's helicopter, ambulance, making sure insurance together, equipment, people. That was challenging. But those who work and they truly have a heart for it, it was a wonderful job to be a part of, working at the Children's Hospital in Mississippi. Even though it was very challenging, the things I seen, I learned so much. I really enjoyed that job. And I am so grateful for the opportunity. So many times, like I said, in this field of social work, there's so many things that we can do in our field. As we celebrate Social Work Month, sometimes people just think social workers only just got to do this, work CPS. No, there's opportunities after opportunities, avenues that you can work in. That even if you decide, hey, I'm burned out in this particular area, I want to do something different, well, you can switch and do other things. And so, again, I just want to talk about my experience working as a PICU social worker. Was the most rewarding, but also the most challenging in my 23 years as a social worker. All right, I'll see you next time. I am Felicia Cameron with Lend in My Hand, a licensed clinical social worker. I don't think I told you my name at the beginning. A licensed clinical social worker, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.